Students again, this time demonstrations in Serbia. The cause may be the collapse of a railway station roof, but it's a strange event to bring out hundreds onto the streets. There's always an underlying cause. Light the blue touch paper and stand well back, perhaps. Join me, Jan Darash, for How We Got Here.
This is how the Serbian people's patience breaks into a myriad of shards like the windows of the Novi Sad City Hall. Since November the 1st, Serbia has seen widespread protests over the government's corruption and negligence. The protesters believe those factors contributed to the poor maintenance and eventual collapse of the Novi Sad train station roof on November the 1st. 15 people died in the accident. The tragedy became a flashpoint for a broader venting of public dissatisfaction with President Aleksandar Vucic's increasingly autocratic rule. Students have been the main driving force behind the protests, organising 15 minutes of silence and sit-ins, as well as blocking more than 40 faculty buildings across the country, including Vucic's alma mater, the University of Belgrade. Vucic's rise to power was a long process that accelerated after 2008, when he enjoyed the strongest political sway in Serbia due to his leadership of the country's largest party, the Serbian Progressive Party. After becoming Prime Minister in 2014, Vucic was elected President in 2017 and re-elected to the post in 2022. Over his political career, Vucic has built what many dub a liberal democratic system of loyalty to uphold his rule of Serbia. Outside of Belgrade, for the majority of citizens who don't speak foreign languages, access to media outlets is limited to government-controlled channels or other media owned by oligarchs with friendly ties to Vucic's administration. This narrows their perspective on the socio-political realities of Serbia. During elections, those employed within the network of allegiances feel organically compelled to vote for the ruling party and convince their families to follow suit. Students protesting in the wake of the Novi Sad tragedy seem unburdened by the entanglement in the loyalty network, which in turn emboldens them to demand the publication of documentation regarding the ill-fated renovation of the train station, as well as the release of fellow protesters detained in clampdowns on demonstrators. Last week, the government started to release the documentation, while Vucic committed to pardoning all detained students and increasing the funding for higher education institutions by 20% in 2025. But meeting those demands has so far not placated the protesters, who also call for Vucic's resignation. A populist and pragmatist at heart, Vucic fosters relations with Russia and China on one hand, while supporting Serbia's EU accession bid on the other. But widespread corruption and limited media freedom have made Serbia's EU prospects increasingly bleaker.
Joining us today is Marta Špala, a Western Balkan analyst at the Centre for Eastern Studies here in Warsaw. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you for having me.
Now, we're talking just before, and you've returned from 2 months in Serbia.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I think the situation in Serbia now is very tense, and somehow the country is at the crossroads, because I travel a lot outside of Belgrade, and I can see a lot of dissatisfaction on the ground on the current regime of Aleksandar Vučić. Formally, Aleksandar Vučić is the president. His power is actually quite limited according to Serbian constitution, but in fact he is like puppet master. He's the person who really leads the country. And in the past years, he creates this kind of impression that maybe we have the problems with rule of law. Maybe our relation with the EU are not so so good as it used to be, and our path to the EU is also very bumpy. But on the other hand, we have economic success. Like, we are building the infrastructure project, we are developing, the economic situation is good, the salaries are rising, and of course, that's all true. But this is the question about the cost. And the cost is actually, I would say that hijacking all the institution and they are now controlled by the governing party, and they are somehow subordinated to the governing party interest, which mostly cares about staying in powers. And yeah, like Serbia, of course, as a country, went through very dramatic economic decline in 90s because of the war, then economic crisis. So this like new economic growth was to some extent quite satisfactory for the part of
bounce back from the
yeah
from the doldrums.
Yeah, but now people are starting to realize that the price actually was too high. That how the current regime is governing the country, it's also bad and risky for them. Mainly because the people in the institution are incompetent. We have the clientelistic network of the oligarchs who are supporting the current regime. There is no accountability from the side of the government. There were a lot of cases of mismanagement in the past, like let's say, even 6 years, but the government never tried to explain these cases. There were a lot of information about high corruption. Also, the government is using the state resources to create these clientelistic networks. On the other hand, it is controlling the electorate, let's say, through giving the jobs in the public sector. But on the other hand, they are also giving the quite lucrative contracts to those who support the government. And when the tragedy happened, the tragedy of the 1st November in Novi Sad, when the roof of the newly renovated railway station collapsed, 15 people died. People, I think, understood that, acceptance of this kind of the government, it's risky for them, because the government, it's, of course, they have a new infrastructure project, but they are realized in such a way that it is risky for the society as a whole because of this incompetence, because of the lack of control.
This is something very concrete to hang on criticism of the government.
Yeah, that's true, and this is also the case because this renovation, all the politicians were at the opening of the railway station, but now after the accident, it appears that the expert didn't allow it to be opened because they didn't have proper, proper checks. It didn't went through proper checks, but despite of this fact, government wants to have this kind of political celebration, wants to, show that it is doing something, so it decided to open it. The same problem is with the railway station in Belgrade, which was also opened, but you can even see when you go there that there are a lot of low quality work. There are a lot of things which were not done properly.
But is this a Serbian contractor or a Chinese company who does it? What's the that's another layer in the
Yeah, so this is actually quite complicated, because the main contractor is Chinese company, who is responsible for renovation of whole railway connection from Belgrade, capital of Serbia, to the border with Hungary, because this railway connection is supposed to connect Greek port in Piraeus, controlled by Chinese, to Budapest.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
But there are a lot of subcontractors, for example, Hungarian ones and the local ones. So the cost of the renovation was actually much higher. This is small railway station. Novi Sad is small city, but the cost of the renovation of this small railway station was much bigger than, for example, renovation of Vienna railway station, which is quite big. So people understand that it was, this corruption rent, which was paid to different subcontractor. And generally, the second problem is that this is also impression in Serbian society that foreign investors, especially those from China, are not controlled properly by the government. That because government wants to have Chinese in, actually tolerates a lot of mismanagement and breaking different regulation of Serbia laws in terms of environmental protection, in terms of like construction and stuff like that.
Health and safety stuff.
Yeah.
What's the was it the student population who took to the streets to protest against this particular episode? It seemed to encapsulate all the failings of the government, all the structures of the government, and how can these students continue their protest? What form does the protest take? Is it concentrated on the nuts and bolts of the railway station collapse, or do they want more and more in political terms?
Yeah, I think this is also some kind of novelty, because also the government and Vucic, the President Vucic, try to convince the society that, you know, politics is dirty and people should not like be involved in politics, that he is, you know, patron of the nation, leader of the nation, and he knows what to do, and the people really should have its own life, that the political parties are corrupted, and, you know, don't engage in politics. We are doing everything what is best for you. And actually, for quite a while, students were really more focused on the individual successes and individual careers, but now...
Exams.
Yeah, exam stuff like that they don't want to be politically active. But now we really see the change. So not only people in Novi Sad, but also in Belgrade and some other cities are blocking the faculties. Also, what is interesting, that professors and like other academics, they are supporting them. Students of the high school, which in Serbia it's called gymnasium, also join the protest. So actually we can see that this is not Belgrade Center protest. The protest is everywhere, which is also very important.
It goes down from in your travels in the country to the towns and to the countryside.
Yeah.
Does it permeate?
Yeah. So yeah, we have the gymnasium. You can see on the Twitter that people, I don't know, Čačak, Leskovac, this small like 30,000 people, they are also protesting, which is important because media are controlled by the government. So government strategy was also to convince people that society is generally satisfied, and if somebody is protesting, they are a small marginalized group. Now people can see also in this small town that this resistance is quite strong. And you ask me like what are the students' demands? And actually this is also quite interesting, because we have a lot of protests before in Serbia about different stuff, but it was always the problem what to demand. These protests were, okay, we want change of the government, which is, you know, nice, but, you know, when you want to translate it to something concrete, it is a problem. And now this is, like I would say, there are two demands, main demands. First of all, to really have real investigation by the prosecutors and trials for those who are responsible for this catastrophe in Novi Sad. The second, because the police, and also there are a lot of people who are very brutal against the protesters. This is usually policemen without any signs, so you don't know who they are. Let's say Secret Service, some people who are, you know, working with the government, who are beating the people. So the second demand is really to investigate those policemen who are responsible for beating the protester. We have the case, for example, of very brutal attack on the older person, which is almost 80, you know, at the police station. So they do want like these two demands, and additionally they want all documentation about this reconstruction of the railway station to be available for public.
When you say about the investigation, there's also been a commission, a joint Serbian-Kosovo commission about reinvestigating the missing of the war. Is that a sop to this sort of groundswell of opinion, or is that a genuine bilateral
No, like they want
project?
to, like I would say that like when we are speaking about the strategy of government towards the protests, they always, when something is happening in Serbia, they always want to divert the attention to something else. So Kosovo issue is always like this easy part.
Okay.
It's like, and it also allows President Vucic, which he said it openly, that only people in Pristina are now happy because there is like this kind of destabilization and protest movement in Serbia, and we should be united because more risk comes from outside. It's mainly Kosovo and some other neighbors. So I would say that no, like the students are very precise because they think that this investigation can really showcase all mismanagement of the current regime and how he is still in power, using what kind of pressure to the protesters, what corruption schemes to have they supported on board. So that's why they are. This is like very precise demand. They don't want also to have election because this is also something which President Vucic likes to do. When something is happening, it's like, okay, let's have a new election.
Okay, but when you say the students, who do you mean? Did they have a leadership, or is this is kind of a TikTok? Social media kind of rebellion?
They are not on TikTok. They are blocking and they are sleeping in the faculty building. Mm-hmm. So it's not TikTok revolution. It's like really going to the street and blocking the street, blocking the traffic. They are blocking now traffic everywhere, like every day. At the day, the roof collapsed, also to honor those who were killed. So I would say that this is like really real protest. They are not leaders, which is like at one point this is a strategy to show that it's like all nation.
Networked.
Yeah, it's not thing. Like mm-hmm. someone, because also for this regime in Serbia, usually when we have some kind of one person who is becoming a leader, they use all control media to attack that person and to destroy their credibility. So that's why we don't have a leader. This is also creates the problems in sense like who is representing the students.
Yes.
But they are trying to be now like all the organization and activists who are against the government. They are really united. So this is also something what wasn't the case before, that they really know what they want and they are really united behind that. So we want investigation, we want law to work, and institution to work, and justice, and those who are responsible to be, responsible and go for trials for what that would happen.
A final question to you, Marta Szpala. How do you see this protest developing throughout the winter?
Yeah,
and the government responses.
I think this is what government is actually counting on, that the winter is coming and the people will be fed up. The Christmas, it is also the season when everybody are relaxing a little bit. But I really think that this protest will change something in Serbia. We also have to remember that when we are speaking about the Milosevic collapse, it also started with the students' protests in '97, and then it took 3 years to really regime to collapse. But this students' protest in '97, it creates the network and infrastructure for the new organization who were working the main aim is to beat the Milosevic at the election. And I think this is also the strategy now, that we are protesting and we are recognizing who wants to work with us, but the main aim is to beat Vucic in the election in 2007.
Fascinating picture. Marta Szpala, thank you in the meantime for coming on to the programme.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful time. That's all we have time for. Join us next time for How We Got Here.